Welcome, everyone, to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, your place for stories that tug at the heart and spark late-night conversations. If you're new here, take a moment to subscribe, and if you want to support the channel, hit that join button so we can keep bringing you deep dives into the real emotions behind the spotlight. Tonight's story is a tremor in the world of entertainment, a confession no one predicted, a feeling that refused to disappear. We're stepping into the moment when Barış Arduç, one of Turkey's most magnetic leading men, decided to stop hiding and speak from the heart. In doing so, he pulled open a door many believed had been quietly locked, and suddenly, the past wasn't past at all. What began as an ordinary morning in Istanbul's glimmering buzz of celebrity chatter took a sharp turn when a single admission shifted the entire conversation. On a widely watched talk show, with the lights low and the questions expected to be safe, Barış chose honesty over comfort. His words weren't careless, they were precise, measured, and heavy with the kind of truth you only say when you've carried it far too long. What he revealed wasn't just gossip, it was the spark that reignited one of the most discussed relationships of recent memory and brought Elsen Sangu back into a storm she had hoped would never return. Barış, known for his composed demeanor and protective silence around his private life, let that facade fall away. In front of millions, he admitted that during the period when everyone believed Elsen was officially involved with a wealthy businessman, something far more personal had unfolded between the two of them. People thought she was committed elsewhere, he said softly, and yes, publicly that was true. But between us, something real was forming. We were seeing each other in secret, where no one could see. Those sentences detonated like fireworks across every platform, a truth that had lived in shadows, suddenly standing in full light. Until that moment, whispers had stayed whispers. There were hints, coincidences, double glances that fans dissected but could never prove. And then, for the first time, Barış pulled back the curtain himself. He wasn't acting. He spoke like a man revisiting a place he never fully left. There was a tremor in his voice as he described not just a fling but an atmosphere, messages sent at odd hours, the electric worry of being recognized, and the kind of chemistry that doesn't consult calendars or caution. You could hear the pull of memory, a mixture of regret and longing that only unfinished love can leave behind. Within minutes, the digital world lost its balance. An avalanche of reactions surged across timelines. The phrase Elsen any dissect eclipsed everything else, echoing in captions, comment sections, even the titles of reaction videos that popped up faster than anyone could keep count. Some fans accused Barış of crossing a line. Others applauded him for refusing to keep living like a ghost in his own story. The divide grew wider with every refresh. And then came the silence. From Elsen, there was nothing. No post, no press note. No subtle like that eagle-eyed followers could decode. For someone who has always been warm, articulate, and in tune with her audience, that silence thudded like a heartbeat in a quiet room. People close to her later murmured that she was shaken, that she had asked for that chapter to remain where she left it. But Barış's decision had made that impossible, and so the story she had curated with care was once again being rewritten by the world. What do you think, Turkish Spotlight Secrets family? Was Barış right to speak aloud a truth that demanded air, or are there chapters that should never be reopened no matter how heavy they become? Share your thoughts below, and while you're there, remember to like and share so more people can join our growing community of story lovers. On the show, Barış painted the picture plainly. Every interaction was a risk, every glance a choice. It was dangerous, but it felt alive, he admitted. We wrote to each other when no one was watching. Love doesn't wait for the perfect schedule. Sometimes it arrives when it shouldn't, and still you feel it. His voice didn't sound like someone romanticizing the past, it sounded like someone acknowledging something unfinished. The emotions were still there, not blazing like they did then, but glowing in the places where old fires never fully go out. The host, sensing the weight in the room, dared to ask, "Aren't you afraid this will put Elsen in a difficult spot?" Barış paused, then answered with a calm that carried an ache. "I don't blame anyone. We were both navigating complicated feelings. But I never denied what I felt. Even now, when I see her, the same feeling finds me, The studio fell quiet, as if even the cameras were reluctant to interrupt. The internet, of course, did the opposite. For the businessman whose name everyone knows but no one needed to hear, the confession landed like thunder. Though he has not spoken publicly, those in his orbit say he had his suspicions. There were signs, one friend allegedly confided, but we chose not to believe them. Rumors now suggest that the emotional clarity of Barış's words has smothered any last embers of reconciliation between that chapter of Elsen's life and the present. If there were bridges left standing, this may have been the final spark that burned them down. Composed on the surface, blindsided underneath, that is how sources describe the reaction from that corner. People close to Barış insist this wasn't a slip brought on by nostalgia. It was deliberate. After years of carrying a half-told tale, he decided to stop pretending that silence was kindness. Some truths shouldn't be sealed forever, he reportedly told friends before the taping. And when he said on air, speaking your truth can be its own freedom, his eyes finished the sentence. They looked tired, yes, but there was peace there too, the kind of calm that comes only after a storm you've been holding in for far too long. For Elsen, that peace did not arrive so easily. She had moved forward with dignity, put her energy into new projects, and carefully reframed how the world saw her. Friends say she felt stunned that her privacy, her hard-won quiet, had been placed on the altar of someone else's release. There's no simple way to reconcile the needs of two people whose timelines no longer align. Does closure truly exist in love, or do old flames keep their light somewhere, waiting for a wind like this to make them visible again? Tell us where you stand, and remember that your support helps Turkish Spotlight Secrets keep telling the human stories inside the headlines. The responses from the public have been intense and polarized. Some called Barış courageous for allowing himself to be vulnerable in an industry that traditionally rewards composure and restraint. Others said he crossed an invisible boundary, exposing feelings that were never his alone to share. No matter the stance, everyone seemed to agree on one thing: something profound had been set in motion, and it couldn't be undone. Reporters are scrambling to secure Elsen's first word. Insiders suggest she will speak, but only on her terms. Not in haste, not through a rushed post, but with care, when the emotional dust settles. One friend told a journalist, "She's hurting, yes. But she's also steady. When she chooses to speak, it will be with grace." In the meantime, every entertainment outlet has turned its spotlight to this triangle of truth and timing: Barış, Elsen, and the chapter marked by that wealthy figure, woven together again by feelings that refused to fit neatly inside their moment. Beneath the glow of fame, this is a deeply human story. It's about timing that arrived out of step with life, about longing that didn't ask permission, and about the guilt that shadows love when it hides. It resonates because it isn't scandal for the sake of spectacle. It is the sound of someone haunted by what might have been, and in that sound, millions heard an echo of their own almost loves, the ones that ended, but never entirely departed. When cameras found him the next day, Barış looked weary but composed. The question came as expected: "Do you regret what you said?" He answered simply, "Sometimes, telling the truth is the only way to breathe." Then he offered a small nod, turned, and walked away, leaving behind a path of questions, reopened memories, and a silence that hummed with possibility. Is this closure or the prologue to something new? No one can say yet. All eyes have shifted to one woman. Will Elsen keep her silence, or will she reclaim the story in her own voice? Her team isn't talking, but close sources whisper that a carefully considered statement is in the works. Whatever she chooses to say, or not say, will set the tone for the next chapter of this already unforgettable saga. Until then, the tabloids burn hotter than ever, and social media pulses with theories and timelines, as fans stitch together glances, credits, and coincidences into patterns that may or may not be real. Every hour brings new interpretations, new clues, new threads woven into a web that began with a single confession. And that's where we'll pause tonight, Turkish Spotlight Secrets family. What do you think? Was Barış's revelation an act of brave honesty or a risky reopening of an old wound that had finally scarred? Tell us in the comments, because your voices shape this community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap join to support Turkish Spotlight Secrets, a space where stories are told with care, curiosity, and heart. Remember, even in a world polished for cameras, truth has a way of finding the door. And when it steps out, everything shifts. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it heals, and sometimes it does both at once. That's the nature of stories like this. They remind us that behind every dazzling smile is a real heartbeat, and behind every headline, two people trying to live with what they feel. We'll be watching, listening, and waiting with you for what comes next, steady in the knowledge that honesty, once spoken, can't be taken back, only lived with, learned from, and, if we're lucky, transformed into something gentler than the ache that came before.